Plaintiff Jeff Boylan says he first started dating the defendant 25 years ago, and they eventually had a daughter. Jeff claims after they broke up, he basically raised his daughter because the defendant was an unfit mother who's been convicted twice of child endangerment. And he's suing his ex today for unreturned property. Defendant Amber Parkin says Jeff is the unfit parent who introduced their daughter to drugs at the age of 14. Amber claims by the time their daughter turned 16, she was hanging with a bad crowd and refused to go to school. So Amber was forced to kick her out. Amber's countersuing for storage fees and emotional distress.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
I'll start with you, sir.
Amber and I met more than 25 years ago. I was invited to a party across the street at her mother's house where we were intimate the first night we met. Within weeks, Amber had moved into my house across the street, and within months...
How old were you all, if you don't mind? That was 25 years ago.
I'm 51.
Okay, so you're 26?
Yeah, I was 26.
Okay,
and
she
Amber
looks
would have
relatively
been...
young. I would have assumed she was like 13, 25.
Oh, no, she was 21, I believe, 20,
right,
21.
I know, you don't have to tell me. Just tell me I'm a little
younger.
off.
I'm 6 years younger than he is. I'm 6 years younger than he is, and we were not intimate the first night we met. That's not true.
And did you move in with him at age 20 or thereabout?
We met in 1983 and were just friends initially, and I moved in with him. He lived with his parents. Okay. I moved in with him initially because I wanted to get out of my dad's home. Things were not going well there, and it was after that point in time that we became intimate.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Well, within a few months, she became pregnant with our daughter. We lived together with our child for a little more than 2.5 years. We actually grew weed together and made good money.
No, that's not true.
We lived well.
That's absolutely not
We were vacationing.
How long ago was this, sir? You better hope the statute of limitations has expired.
It is.
3 days.
This was 2
3
decades.
days ago? Call the police.
2 decades.
Call the police. Go ahead, sir.
That's how we made our money. We broke up when our daughter was 2.5 years old, and it was my responsibility to raise our daughter all of her life because Amber was an unfit mother.
How so?
When we broke up, Amber started going to nursing college. Amber really didn't have much to do with her. I was always in charge of her doctor appointments.
That's absolutely not true,
everything
Jeff.
that had to do with school as she was growing up. And we're talking about when she was 2.5, but I mean, her whole life, I was always in charge of everything to do with school.
When you all split up,
yes, sir.
You took her with you?
No,
she went with Amber.
So what are you talking about? She's going to nursing college. You're supposed to take the child to the doctor and do whatever was needed. If you weren't working, were you working other than growing weed?
Yes, sir.
Where?
Well, I was
Go ahead, man. You want to answer to this?
He was not working. He's never worked. He was not working. He's never worked.
I know. You see,
while we lived together, he laid around on his butt mostly and did nothing. I collected ADC because I was forced to, because I didn't have any other means of support. He's continued all these years to be supported by his mother. She has paid his way for years. He lived with his parents for a number of years until about 2004, and now he's been homeless since 2007. He's the only homeless guy I know that has a cell phone. She pays for that.
No, she doesn't.
He continues to use drugs periodically whenever he can get his hands on them. He was addicted to prescription drugs for years. He has contributed to our daughter's upbringing by introducing her to drugs when she was around the age of 14.
Untrue.
By her own admission, she's told me that several times, that he is the one that initially gave her marijuana to smoke, gave her shots of Jack Daniels. She got into drugs and started running around with a bad crowd around that time. At the age of 16, I had to unfortunately ask her to move out of my house because I couldn't deal with her behavior problems anymore. She dropped out of school. She would not go to school.
You did right.
From the age of
Amber threw her out on the street, Your Honor, at age 16.
Right.
When she was in kindergarten.
I think that's illegal. Amber's been convicted of child endangerment
No.
on more than one
I have-
occasion.
no.
At what ages?
I don't think so.
While my daughter was approximately 11 years old, but not on my daughter because my daughter's with me because she never spent time with Amber.
how-
It was her boyfriend's daughter and possibly Shelby here. She was in a car wreck and she didn't have the children buckled up. Just got a new car, drove in the ditch, injured both of the girls. One of them was Shelby's dad's other daughter.
How old were the children?
The children were approximately
That was a car accident.
8 or 9.
Shelby was 3
It was
years
a car
old at
accident,
the
and
time.
Amber was charged and convicted of
Accident
child
is the
endangerment.
operative word, right?
Correct.
And because
Most people
obviously
don't-
she didn't tell them to put their seatbelts on, that
I
was
told
a mistake.
them my mistake was not
That
making
was a
sure they
mistake.
had them on.
That was a mistake. Nevertheless,
Amber-
stand up, young lady. State your name.
Shelby Curtis?
Do you believe your mother has been abusive towards you?
No.
How long have you lived with your mother? All your life?
Yes, sir.
How old are you?
I'm 16, sir.
All right, thank you. What property are you suing her about?
Well, I have a list here.
Yes, sir.
If I may hand it to you. I was evicted from my house in April of 2007. Before I was kicked out, a couple of weeks prior, I asked Amber about storing things in her garage which
You
she never
did
moved
not.
before. I absolutely did.
No,
Let him
you
finish,
did
ma'am.
not.
Go ahead.
Well, I absolutely did. I had 2 dogs, too, that both came from her house. I left her house. She put a note up on her garage door saying I had 30 days to remove my
No,
property.
I have that right
Or
here.
she
would
It didn't
dispose
say
it.
30
Quiet,
days.
ma'am.
She said I had to get in touch with her and
All
find
right,
a time.
and what was
to
wrong
get my
with that?
stuff.
Because
Okay,
30 days is sufficient.
Yes, sir. I tried calling, leaving messages on her cell phone and home phone. That didn't work. I asked my daughter and my mother both to do the same thing, trying to call. And I was living outside.
So why do you think she told you that if she was going to avoid it occurring?
Well, I don't think Amber acts rational all the time. She had a new boyfriend at the time, and I was staying in her garage, and she said she didn't, for weeks. I was living there. She said she didn't want her new boyfriend to see me there. They pulled up one day. The new boyfriend saw me, and they called the police. She blew up and acted like she didn't know I was there.
How do you respond, ma'am, to prohibiting him from getting his possessions?
Well, first off, that's absolutely not
Even
true.
though you notified him and begged him and asked him and pleaded with him to come get him.
She wouldn't talk to me or my parents or my...
Go ahead, sir.
Well,
Oh, my daughter.
First off, he
Excuse
got
me.
evicted and he moved his things in my garage without my knowledge or consent. I absolutely did not tell him that he could do this. I don't want his stuff on my property. I don't want anything to do with him. He did this. I found out about it. I came home one day and I noticed that things around my backyard, my gate was open, my spigot had been used, and it looked suspicious. I started looking around. I heard a noise in the garage. I opened up the garage door. There sits Jeff with one of the dogs smoking a cigarette. And I said,
the
what
dog
are
was
you?
smoking a cigarette?
He was.
Oh, you said there sits Jeff with a dog smoking a cigarette. So grammatically,
With the
that's
dog,
what that
comma,
means. All
smoking
right.
cigarette. And I said, what are you doing in my garage? And he proceeds to tell me that he was evicted. I told him he needed to get out. I don't want him there. You can't live in my garage. This is what I told him. And he begged and pleaded to be let to live there. He said he didn't have anywhere to go and it would just be a few weeks until his mom could find him a new place. And I said,
Never
no,
said
I
nothing
don't
like
care.
that.
I don't want you in my garage. Get your stuff and get out. Well, he refused to leave. I called the police. He refused to leave, and I was told by the police officers that because he had brought his possessions onto my property, that was the same as establishing a legal residence, and that I would have to go through the eviction process to get him out. And I said, are you kidding me? He's trespassing.
You're countersuing, ma'am, for $5,000 for storage fees, cleaning fees, and emotional distress.
That's correct. I just went ahead and added emotional
Did he agree to
distress
pay
for this.
storage fees?
No, he dumped his
What is the
stuff on my
emotional
property.
distress for?
Because he was there for 3 weeks. The second time I called police, they did run him off. They told me that they had done some checking and that you could not live in a garage in Polk County, Iowa, without having running water and facilities. So they put a criminal trespass him on at that point in time.
Right.
I had to clean this garage out. He left cups of urine in there. There was needles. I found syringes. He's not a diabetic.
This is
So
untrue.
You've asked for $5,000 for your claim. I'll grant you $3,000 for his illegal occupation of your garage, which would be by way of storage fees, the emotional distress for all you went through to try and get him out of there, including police encounters. Your claim is dismissed, sir. Where's his property, however?
I have the remainder of it in my
You ordered
garage.
to give him his property within 30 days. Otherwise, your judgment will be rescinded, and we're going to wait until you do
I
so
understand.
Thank
before
you.
you receive such judgment. Judgment for the defendant.
Thank you.
The allegations that I introduced our daughter to drugs is totally false. Amber has never been a parent her entire life. She doesn't even know what her grades are in school.
He did introduce our daughter to drugs. She's admitted that, she herself has admitted to that several times to me.
My daughter found
Take her
drugs
out.
hidden in her bedroom by
That's
her
not
boyfriend
true.
when she was 11 years old.